as far as education is concerned, I'm not a teacher, but I do like to get my ideas that I'm working on across to people as best I can. And it's practically, you can show people in a room like that, this is what I'm doing. You can break it down slowly for them, and they can see it. And even though I might not be able to articulate it in words exactly what I'm playing, they can digest what I'm working on in a room like that. And you can just play through some ideas, which is what I did today. So the Tori Amos thing just landed on my lap out of the blue, and I hadn't properly toured for 10 years. I toured with Delamitri, I played on their last record, but I did a couple of weeks in the UK in 2014. This is while I was still on The Voice. And then in 2018 I did a couple of weeks too, so that was my extent of my touring experience in the last 10 years. So when that landed on my lap, I had to say to my wife, is this it? Have I retired? Am I just in the windmill now? But basically I've had some issues with my health, and I needed to kind of get on top of that. And it was a great excuse to get myself properly fit. Right. And I'm really thankful for that. And I did the British tour was very short, but it doesn't matter how short it is. You only need 2 days of any touring at my age, and it's a big deal. Just going to bed late now is a big deal. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. And we do a 2-hour sound check, and we do a 2-hour gig. So I'm playing for 4 hours, and everyone goes, "Big deal, mate." But it's not just the physicality of playing the drums. Her music is very much a cerebral load. It's like you've got to think about what you're doing. It's not just, here's the click and the intro's 8 bars, the chorus is a 16, and nice one, we're all good, which a lot of pop music is. Her music's not that at all. So you've got to be thinking properly on your game. So mentally and physically, it was a hard thing for me to do, but I survived, and I'm overjoyed now. I'm looking forward to going to America. I had an amazing year in 2020 because of the studio, and I'd set it up. I was working on The Voice, and I'd set it up slowly over that period of time. It's actually 10 years this year, the Windmill actually. And I left The Voice to concentrate on the mill, and then the pandemic hit. I had a very lucky time of it, really. I was at home, the studio's there, and people wanted to carry on working however they could. So it was okay. It was a pleasant experience to realise that I'm not going to sync with my family. Like a lot of people went through that really painful time, and they still are. Usually I do it at school hours, so when I'm up in the morning when there's school run, I'll do the school run, and I come back and then I jump straight into the studio and then work up until the school run. And then sometimes, if it's an American artist or somebody that's not in the UK, I'll go back in after dinner, or even when the kids are in bed, I'll go back over there because I can play late. So I've made it sort of balanced, and the kids, they don't come over. No, I don't get any disturbance from anyone I'm in there. It's interesting, I've just been doing some stuff with the Chemical Brothers, and I was talking to one of the guys about the process of it all, and they like the fact that in the past they've hired drummers, great drummers, to play on their records, and the drummer can get in a studio in a normal traditional session. You can do quite a lot to your drums to make them sound a certain way, but then it's done. Now there's somebody in there that's got to do their job and try and add to what you've just done to get that end sound. And I think what the Chemical Brothers, what they like about what I've been doing for them is that it's all there together. I'm getting the sound, I've got the idea of the sound in my head, I hopefully can just about get it myself, as an engineer, and I can play what they're talking about. So it's a beautiful thing as far as the sound's concerned, really, because you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to properly get into recording in the first place, because sometimes you get disappointment. You play in the room and then you go back in to listen. It's like, it doesn't sound. The snare drum doesn't sound how I really want it to be. And you can't say anything. You're the drummer. You're not the producer. You're not the engineer. You're not the artist. So you just have to. And I just thought, well, wouldn't it be great if I could maybe take some of that control back? And I've since heard a podcast with Steve Jordan who says exactly the same thing. One of the reasons he got into engineering, because again, he was disappointed at the sound. He had the sound in his head and he wanted to hear it. And they were close, but not quite there. So he's like, how am I going to do this? I've got to learn how to be an engineer myself. And I love that aspect of it. I absolutely love it. Some people hate it. Some people just want to play the drums. I love experimenting and messing around with sound. And like, how can I make this snare drum sound cool? Well, that was a bizarre one, you know, it's almost 4 years ago that we started recording that. So Julian is sort of, you know, he won't mind me saying, but he takes a long time to do music. 5-10 years is easy, his time that he's going to work on a record. So 4 actually is probably quite quick, although I spoke to him and he said, oh yeah, but some of these songs I've been working on 5 years before we even started recording them. But it came, you know what, I'm a strong endorser for social media. And Julian, I noticed him, I think I played on a record and he'd heard that, and he asked the producer who the drummer was. And then is what most people do, their first port of call is, oh, I'm going to try and find some more information about this guy. Bam, social media comes up on their Google search. And then I noticed, I didn't notice when he started following me, but he commented on one of my posts, and I was like, oh, this verified person's commented, and I looked, and it was Julian Lennon. And then within about a year or so, he reached out and said, I'd love you to start work on some of my songs. And this was pre-pandemic, but he actually wanted to do it remotely. He liked the idea of me, he liked the sound that I was getting in my room, and he liked the idea of me being able to work while him and his buddy, who's his long-term producer pal, were working on other tracks in the south of France where he lives. And then I could just send stuff and then they can work on other things, and it really suited him down to the ground. And then I met him at NAMM 2020, is actually when I first met him. Yeah, amazing. When I heard the vocal, you can't ignore, he sounds like his dad. And actually the music, this is actually one of the big things I think that he's starting to embrace early on in his years. He got a lot of criticism for sounding like John Lennon, and the music being slightly derivative of Beatles-esque chords and progressions, and he got a lot of grief. You know, he's just trying to sound like his dad. But he's older than me, and he's sort of found some peace with it, and he's happy now that, of course I sound like my dad. Of course I'm influenced by the Beatles. It's my childhood. It's my life. So he's very happy with the way that the music sounds and the way that he sounds now. But you can't not ignore it when you put the track on and then it's like, wow, it sounds very much like John Lennon. We're around the same age as me, so his music, the influences that are in his music, references that I know, if you know what I mean. So it was great working with him because he could name bands that of course I'd know, where somebody maybe a lot younger wouldn't know what he's talking about. I had a lot of fun, thanks Mike, yeah. Always fun to sort of play to drummers and feel the critique in the room. It's good, you know, so I think it's good for our growth as drummers. Kind of love.